Hi, I'm Ruben Selvanigam, co-director at Property Solvers. In this video, I want to look at a question that could quietly reshape the entire UK housing market over the next 10 to 20 years. What happens when the baby boomers sell up? We're talking about arguably the biggest property handover in modern history. Millions of homes built or bought in the 1960s, 70s and 80s, much of it now in the hands of long-established and largely mortgage-free homeowners. What will happen when those homes start coming back onto the market? And how will it reshape not just prices and supply, but the kinds of housings both younger and older generations actually need? Let's dive in. According to the Office for National Statistics, more than 3/4 of the over 65s in the UK own their home outright. That's roughly 6.5 million households controlling over 2 trillion of housing wealth. Many of these properties were bought decades ago, often for tens of thousands of pounds and even less, and are now worth hundreds of thousands and quite often millions. As Britain's population ages, this wealth is increasingly concentrated amongst homeowners who will, over the next 20 years, look to downsize, move into more suitable accommodation, or pass property on to family members. The Resolution Foundation estimates that by the mid-2030s, more than 100 billion a year will transfer from the older to younger generations, most of it through housing, a shift economists call the Great Wealth Transfer. Handled well, it could rebalance the market and ease affordability pressures. Handled badly, it could expose deeper structural problems, from planning bottlenecks to widening intergenerational inequality. The challenge is that there simply aren't enough appropriate housing solutions being developed for this ageing population. Well-located, energy-efficient homes that make moving both practical and appealing. So for now, most boomers aren't moving. The most recent English housing survey showed that nearly 70% of homeowners aged 65 to 74 plan to stay where they are for as long as possible. It also showed that fewer than 3% of older homeowners move each year, largely because there's nowhere they actually want to go to. Many now live in underoccupied homes, 3, 4, even 5-bedroom houses, sometimes larger, with 1 or 2 people inside. Across England, government data suggests there are around 9 million spare bedrooms in homes owned by the over 60s. Not a sign of selfishness, but of a housing system that's built for a different era. There are obvious reasons. For many, it's the emotional attachment. These homes represent stability, identity, and security. For others, it's practical. There just aren't enough appealing downsizing options. And by the time you factor in stamp duty, legal fees, and the sheer hassle of moving, staying put often feels like the more simple choice. So even though freeing up these homes could ease supply, the incentives to move just aren't strong enough yet. This creates what analysts refer to as the lock-in effect. People stay put not because they want to hoard space, but because the system punishes mobility. When older homeowners do consider moving, the options are often limited and unappealing. Retirement apartments can often come with steep service charges and restrictive covenants that make resale difficult. Bungalows are scarce and expensive, and many new-build retirement villages feel detached from communities people have known for decades. The underlying issue is that we're still not building the right kinds of homes for later life. Developers continue to prioritise large family estates or high-density flats for young professionals, with very little in between. Planning systems favour greenfield developments and volume builder models, whilst purpose-built retirement schemes like those from McCarthy Stone or Inspired Village remain expensive and concentrated in only a few regions. The result is a market that doesn't reflect how people actually want to live as they get older, leaving many with nowhere practical or desirable to move to, even when the appetite to downsize is there. As a result, many homeowners remain in properties longer than they might otherwise have planned. But sooner or later, these homes do re-enter the market, either through downsizing or relocation, or as younger generations inherit properties that are often mortgage-free or carry very little secured debt. In many cases, these homes become the family's biggest financial asset, but turning them into liquidity can be more complicated than it sounds. Some sales are straightforward, whilst others get delayed by probate, family disagreements, or simply the difficulty of selling large, higher-value houses that appeal to a shrinking pool of buyers. Many of these larger homes also present real challenges when it comes to selling. They often need extensive modernisation, not just cosmetic updates, but major work to meet today's energy efficiency standards. Heating costs can be high, EPC ratings poor, and retrofitting older builds is rarely cheap or straightforward. Location can be another obstacle. A lot of these properties sit in quiet, semi-rural areas that once suited family life, but now fall outside commuting or lifestyle patterns of younger buyers. Even when they're beautifully maintained, running costs and the sheer scale of upkeep can put people off. As a result, big houses can sit on the market for months and sometimes years, particularly outside London's prime postcodes, with fewer proceedable buyers willing or able to take them on. Estate agents sometimes talk about aspirational stock, properties that photograph beautifully but struggle to translate into real sales. For families inheriting these homes, the ongoing costs, maintenance, council tax, insurance and utilities can quickly become a burden whilst waiting for the right buyer to appear. And even at the very top end of the market, the same pattern applies. Take Sir Terry Wogan's Buckinghamshire home, for example, a beautiful Georgian-style estate that remains unsold despite its celebrity provenance. It's a reminder that grandeur isn't always liquidity. especially when buyers factor in not just energy bills and maintenance, but a stamp duty bill running into hundreds of thousands of pounds. On a £4 million property, for example, the tax alone comes to around £391,000, enough to deter many potential buyers before they even book a viewing. At a more modest level, the same dynamic applies. Someone selling a £700,000 home and moving into something smaller still faces a five-figure stamp duty bill, money that could have gone towards modernisation, savings, or other ways to enjoy life. It's one of the reasons larger, older homes linger unsold for longer, especially when prospective downsizers weigh up whether it's worth moving at all. Inheritance tax adds another layer of complexity. The current threshold of £325,000 per person, plus the main residence allowance, hasn't kept pace with rising house prices, meaning more estates now fall into liability. For families inheriting property, this means selling faster to settle the bill. Others plan ahead by gifting property or using trusts, which alters when and how these homes come to market. So while some talk about a silver tsunami of listings, the reality is a steady, uneven trickle that speeds or slows down depending on tax rules, personal finances, and family decisions. The question then is what can be done to make this transition smoother, to turn slow, uneven change into steady, managed renewal of Britain's housing stock. Economists and think tanks, including the Institute for Fiscal Studies, have long argued for reform. Targeted stamp duty relief for downsizers, rebates for moves into energy-efficient homes, or even a shift from taxing transactions to taxing annual property value could all help unlock movement without cutting government revenue long term. In the Netherlands and New Zealand, local councils have zoned small pots for age-friendly housing, reduced development fees, and encouraged mixed-age neighbourhoods. The result has been more movement, stronger communities, and fewer isolated homeowners, all without major public spending. In Japan, where an ageing population has left millions of vacant homes, known as akaya, local governments now offer properties for nominal sums to encourage reuse and revitalise towns. In Canada, tax incentives support older homeowners to renovate or rent part of their homes, keeping communities vibrant and freeing up unused space. And in Germany, strong regional frameworks allow people to downsize nearby, maintaining neighbourhood community and social ties. Together, these examples show that ageing doesn't have to mean stagnation. With the right policies, housing markets can adapt, encouraging mobility, improving social cohesion, and reusing existing stock far more effectively than large-scale new building ever could. Britain could follow that lead, but it will require bold long-term reform, flexible local planning, incentives for downsizer-friendly design, and a shift in mindset from simply building more homes to building the right homes for an ageing and evolving society. And that's really the missing link here, what planners call the middle ground. Well-designed, single-storey or low-maintenance home in walkable neighbourhoods, close to shops, transport and healthcare. Increasingly, these aren't just for older movers, they're the kinds of flexible, energy-efficient homes that work intergenerationally, suitable for retirees, young families and everyone in between. Where these kind of developments do exist, often led by smaller builders or community projects, they sell quickly, helping families release equity and pass wealth on in a more balanced and practical way. That alone shows how strong the appetite is for well-designed homes, and how modernising Britain's housing stock is less about speculation and more about ensuring that the homes built by one generation genuinely work for the next. The challenge is now scale. As these demographic shifts gather pace, their impact will vary sharply by region, shaped by local affordability, planning constraints, and the character of each market. Geography, timing, and quality will matter far more than quantity. In suburban areas with ageing populations, from Surrey and Hertfordshire to Staffordshire and Devon, we're already seeing the early stages of this shift. As older owners move on, available stock rises, creating both opportunity and challenge for investors and developers. In London and the South East, gradual selling could help rebalance supply, though high prices still make it difficult for younger buyers to step in. Agents in these regions already report more stale, high-end listings owned by retirees or younger generations that have inherited these properties, where upkeep and running costs deter families. Many of these homes are solidly built but energy inefficient, often needing significant retrofit work to meet modern EPC standards. The right approach is selective and sensitive, focusing on refurbishment, subdivision, or conversion into smaller, more efficient homes that fit today's lifestyles. Further north, the picture shifts. In the Midlands and North, where affordability ratios are lower, increased turnover could spark local regeneration, particularly around transport corridors and university towns. Meanwhile, rural and coastal communities face a more complex set of pressures. Second home ownership, tourism economies, and limited local employment means that some properties are sold out of the area or remain empty between generations. Repurposing these properties can also open doors for multi-generational living or co-living models for older adults, reducing isolation whilst making better use of Britain's existing housing stock. Done well, this kind of renewal can create localised regeneration, breathing new life into suburban and semi-rural communities. But to make it work, the right infrastructure needs to follow, from accessible transport links and healthcare provision to local shops, digital connectivity and community spaces. Without these foundations, even well-designed homes risk becoming isolated pockets rather than part of thriving, connected neighbourhoods. In terms of prices, the adjustment is likely to be gradual rather than dramatic. If homes come to market slowly, roughly in line with household formation, the effect on prices will be modest. But if tax rules, inheritance, or lifestyle changes accelerate sales in specific regions, we could see localised corrections, particularly for larger, less energy-efficient homes. Nationally, analysts like Savills and Hamptons expect a slow rebalancing rather than a sharp downturn, easing pressure in some segments whilst reinforcing demand in others, especially for smaller, greener, and more accessible properties. At Property Solvers, we're already seeing many of these trends play out on the ground. Executors managing inherited properties often turn to auction or fast cash sales for certainty of speed, especially when several beneficiaries are involved. It avoids months of chain delays, family disagreements, and the risk of properties sitting empty while costs mount. The same logic applies to retirees looking to downsize without the stress. A straightforward sale can unlock equity for a move, help with care costs, or even allow families to pass on wealth early. In many cases, the price achieved for a transparent, quick transaction ends up being a fair trade-off between value and peace of mind. The bigger picture is clear. This generational shift isn't about selling houses. It's about renewing how Britain thinks about property. Many boomer-era homes are solid, characterful, and well located, but they need to be reimagined for modern life, warmer, greener, and more adaptable, and better match to smaller households and changing needs. Handled well, this could rebalance the market, releasing underused housing, supporting regeneration in the regions, and giving younger families more room to grow. But it will take coordination, better planning, smarter incentives, and an acceptance that housing policy and demographics now move hand in hand. If we get this right, the next 20 years could mark the most constructive phase in Britain's housing story since the post-war boom, one where intergenerational fairness and housing quality finally move in the same direction. At Property Solvers, we're already seeing this change in motion, where they're helping families sell inherited homes, guiding downsizers through their next move, or managing time-sensitive transactions through our cash and auction sale services, for example. The aim is always the same: to make complex transitions simpler, faster, and more transparent. If you'd like a free bespoke valuation report or want to explore which route might work best for your situation, you can reach me directly at ruben@propertysolvers.co.uk. A big thanks for watching, and as always, please like the videos, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives on fast sales, auctions, and the UK housing market.